You awake yet? Last week we showed you how to color sand the car. This week we're going to go into buffing. I don't know how long this video is going to be because, quite frankly, I am not cutting this. I am out of town as you're watching this. I am on a boat somewhere sipping Mai Tais and hanging out with my lady. So we are going to finish this up with the buffing on the car. I'm going to show you the pads that I'm using. Again, I want to state this video is not the be-all end-all. This is kind of an introduction to show you that you can have the courage to do this kind of stuff and take on your own alligator skinned car. I'm starting to call this thing the fried green tomato. In honor of Starsky and Hutch, and this one's just, it's not quite ripe yet. So after the break, we're going to step into it and step off on it. Restoration of a classic Ford is a journey of discovery. Let Autocrafters help you with yours. We offer quality parts for Falcon, Fairlane, F-Series, Galaxy, Maverick, and Pinto. Contact us today. All right, I got a cloth here. I'm going to wipe down this fender to get the residue off from the 2500 and all the other ones. There will be a little bit of moisture that we throw down on this, but not a ton. Now I'm going to be using a 5973 buffing compound from the guys at 3M. I like 3M. Those guys make really good stuff. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to use with it. Now again, I am not using super high-tech equipment. This is a plain old buffer that I got from Harbor Freight. It's their Bauer line. I don't even know if they still have this. They keep changing the lines like some people change their underwear. This is a cutting pad that they had that I bought there as well. It's a nice fat pad, and I'm going to put a little bit of moisture on my pad, and then I'm going to put a little bit of compound on my pad. There is any number of different ways to do this, and some of this is going to be personal preference. We'll set that aside for a second because I did forget to go in and put a tape back down. I learned my lesson on the other side where I tended to go through the white paint a little, maybe a lot. If you buy the car, you'll know. I'll show it to you. All right, when I'm taping, I'm holding my tape tight. I'm setting about every 6 inches, and I'm about a 1/16 of an inch above my stripe if I can manage it. Sometimes a little more, but overall I'm trying to stay about a 1/16 of an inch. Sometimes a little less. The reason I'm not worried about it down here at the very bottom section, because you're going to be right near that stripe, you're not going to see it as much. You really want to know how? Like I said, Paint Education will show you. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and start cutting this. Already an improvement. We're not even halfway through with it cutting yet. Still got a hiss to it whenever I'm running it. All right, I'm going to put some on the panel. This stuff is a little thinner and goopier than what I'm used to, meaning it's probably going to get everywhere. All right, that's looking pretty good. There's a couple areas where the sanding scratches from the 400 are still evident in the paint. It's a little hazy looking. You'll know that from that, and you'll be able to see the actual sanding scratch marks in it. I'm going to go back and hit it with a little bit of 2500 and try to clean it up. And these areas down here, I always have a problem with anything on these kind of curves because it's really hard to see what we've got. I'm going to hit that off camera with some 2500 and see if we can make this thing shine like new money. It's already looking pretty darn good right up in here. Let's see if we can make the rest of it go. All right, I'm going to go in and cut these areas that have been worked again. This is what it's all about, people. Now, one of the things I'm going to talk about here is this. I will put down some more tape here on the stripe, and then I will go in and hand buff really close up against this edge here and all around the corners. I find myself that I'm pretty bad at doing that well with the actual buffer, and I'll tend to start taking finish off of something else like this tape stripe that's on here. I'm going to go ahead and pull tape because I find also that if I leave wet tape on here for any length of time from when we've been buffing things, that it will tend to stick and get messy. So I'm going to pull that tape off, and I'm still going to have to go in and take some of this other older tape off when we were wet sanding, probably with pre-cleaner. It's coming up with my fingers. All right. Is it perfect yet? No, not even close. There's some work I will want to do to get it better, but I mean, it's still basically just the same thing. I'm going to hit this once again with the buffer, and then I'll go in with another polish level. But even right now, what I've got, I'm pretty darn happy with. So, what do I do about the vast tundra of this hood here? I am going to do something that most men like to do. I am going to be lazy and use this. It's still got dust in it from a woodworking project a little while back. This is a dual action sander, and they make hook and eye pads that will go right on this thing in anywhere from 240 all the way up to 2000 grit for a 4 or 5 inch sander like this type. You can find it on Amazon. You can find them probably at your local paint store. If I'm going to do an area this big, I am going to want to do a dual action sander to do that. It's just going to make a much faster work out of it. Areas like these coves and stuff, you're going to probably want to go in and hand polish those and hand sand them with those great papers. But for the big flat areas on here, I am definitely going to go to a DA sander. It's just going to be faster and easier. All right, this is a 39061 that I use for polishing. This goes after the rubbing compound. I could probably go a little deeper on this and get a little bit better shine, but honestly, this is probably a little bit better than what you'd got with a factory look, with the exception of the crazing that you see in the paint. So I'm going to do a little dab-a-doo-ya on my pad. I have a special pad for this as well. Again, these are pads that I got from Harbor Freight. Just a good workaday pad. And this is to take the swirl marks and some of the lighter scratches out of this finish. ain't perfect, but I could, well, I can't shave in it. But it doesn't look bad. So that would be your final step. Now I've got some spots down in here along the stripe line that I'm probably going to continue to work off camera. This was just to give you an idea of what you can achieve being an average enthusiast who hasn't done a lot of this. I have not done a ton of this kind of work. I'm letting you know that right now, but I mean, this has actually turned out far better than I thought it would. Last step I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of wax on it. I have an old can of carnauba that I have owned since I was, I don't know, probably in my 20s. That's how little I like doing this kind of stuff on cars. All right, now what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to apply a lot of this, I would just put down a light coat of wax on this. I use a carnauba wax. This stuff here, I've had, I don't even know how long I've had it, but the bottom's almost visible now. I'm going to wax this stuff up. The wax can hide some of these scratches if it's a good enough wax. In other words, if your sanding work ain't all that great, the wax can make you look like you know what you're doing. All right, and I tend to be one to let that haze. I do not work wax or any of this kind of stuff out in bright sun. I would pull this into the garage, or like we've got it inside our studio space here, in order to make this stuff set up and give it a chance to dry. Some guys like cleaning it off wet. I usually like to wait for it to dry for a second. As soon as it builds up a haze, I'll take it off. That's what this one's for. See, the scratches that I could see down here have kind of faded with that application of the wax. These down here are not going to go away because they didn't get really down in that corner yet, to my satisfaction. Well, if that 1/4 panel were decent, this old car would start looking pretty nice. Now, last thing I want to say, how quiet that is, and I'll even wipe this off. Let me get closer to it with my mic so you can hear it. That's what you're wanting. This has got to be redone. This is in a nice shape. I would be fine taking this car to a cruising if I could make the whole car look like this. I have found paint chip companies that will sell you a base clear. You can't get a single stage anymore, which is going to make this a little more complicated. But you can find these colors. The dark jade that I've got on this car, that color is available out there on the market in a base clear. If you want to do single stage, you're probably going to have to go to a local paint store, and you're going to have to probably get a whole pint. They're not going to mix up just enough to do a touch-up with. At least that's typical of what I've seen so far. This is nice though. It is actually polished out pretty darn well. There's some scratching down here along the line that I could get rid of, but you know what? Nice driver car, not a show car. Well, that's it, folks. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you on down the road. Oh, and be sure to be kind to each other. Love each other. Treat each other nice. I should unplug it from the wall. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call a cut here, Darren. I'm having a malfunction.